What's up, everyone? Tom Campbell here, former highly selective college admission officer from Pomona College and College of the Holy Cross, current community manager here at College Essay Guy. And I'm back to tackle the question that's on everyone's mind. How do you actually pay for college without selling a kidney, inventing the next ChatGPT, or doing some serious networking at the White Lotus? Well, today's video is your ultimate affordability starter pack. I'll walk you through some common myths around affording college, the key financial aid terms that you'll need to know from the get-go, how to estimate what you'll actually have to pay for college before doing your actual application, how to find colleges that are going to meet your financial needs, actually applying for aid using the FAFSA and CSS Profile, tips for finding outside scholarships, appealing financial aid offers if the math isn't mathing, and I'll close things out with some final tips that could end up saving you thousands. Because I know these days with these tariffs, every dollar counts. Also, before you get too far, know that this video is a guide for domestic US-based students. International students, take a look at our International Student Financial Aid Guide in the link below, and like and subscribe to College Essay Guy so you're the first to know when an international specific financial aid video hits the press. All right, let's kick things off with busting a few persistent myths. Myth number one, the sticker price is what you actually pay. Spoiler, it's not. Well, not for most. And it all depends on where you decide to apply. Fun fact, only about 10 to 15% of students enrolled in private colleges pay the full price. Everyone else, discounts galore, if you know how to find them. When you're wondering how much an individual college might cost for you, what you need to do is figure out your net price, which is the sticker price minus any aid that you might receive. More on how to do that soon. All right, myth number two, in-state colleges are always the cheapest option. Not for everyone. If you're a low-income student, you might actually get more aid and pay less at private colleges that meet 100% of demonstrated financial need. And yes, this includes housing and meals, which is frequently written as room and board on a college's tuition and fees page. Myth number three, because my family was good at saving money, we're going to be punished for it, and all of it's going to be absorbed by colleges. The truth is that savings do count in financial aid calculations, but only a small percentage is considered. For parent savings, the FAFSA assesses about 5% of the total amount, and even less in many cases. For student savings accounts, it's assessed at 20%, but students rarely have large assets. Bottom line, saving for college is almost always better than not saving at all. Consider opening up super protected accounts like Smart 529 accounts to make sure those savings are all savings, all college. And myth number four, my family makes too much money to qualify for financial aid. Maybe, but maybe not. There's no magic income cutoff when it comes to financial aid. And factors like family size and how many siblings are in college can change the math. So unless your family owns a small country, you should still entertain the possibility of tapping into need-based aid by using some free, highly accurate calculators, more on this in a minute, that'll give you all that clarity, Zed. Speaking of clarity, let's go full Sesame Street and run through some need-to-know vocabulary that you'll encounter as you start to apply for financial aid. All right, first things first, need-based aid versus merit-based aid at colleges. Need-based aid is awarded solely based on your family's financial situation. Grades, scores, or talents are not tied to this pot of gold in any way. If your family can't afford the full cost of attendance, colleges may offer you grants, free money that you never have to pay back, work study, which are on-campus jobs that are prioritized for students receiving need-based aid, and or loans, which is money that you eventually have to pay back, based on your application information, to help fill that gap. So for example, say you fill out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. Side note, it's FAFSA, not FAFSA. And this is going to give your family a number called a Student Aid Index, or SAI, which up until more recently was called an EFC, or Expected Family Contribution, in the old version of the FAFSA. Let's say that this SAI, Student Aid Index, shows that your family can only contribute $10,000 a year toward college. If the school you're looking at costs around $70,000 a year, the college will try to cover as much of that $60,000 gap as possible. Now, how much will they offer? That depends on their percent of demonstrated need met, which varies from college to college, depending on lots of different factors. An easy way to look up a college's percent of demonstrated need is by heading to BigJ Educational Consulting, which you'll find in the link below. Each year, educational consultants Jeff Levy and Jetty Kent produce incredibly helpful spreadsheets with this information and so much more. The higher the percent of demonstrated need, the more likely you are to receive a financial aid package that allows you to attend the school of your dreams. All right, let's shift gears to the other primary form of aid, which is merit-based aid. This is awarded by colleges based on your achievements and or attributes. So think academics, athletics, artistic talent, geographic location, or leadership-related accomplishments, just to name a few. Some merit-based scholarships are automatic, while others require extra applications, essays, or interviews beyond the standard application to that college. Many colleges have a variety of merit-based scholarships that are set up by donors who have specific parameters. So, say a rich tech billionaire alum from your favorite college is super into Marvel. They might set up a merit scholarship that asks students to write an essay about why DC is inferior. Side note, this is totally hypothetical, but honestly, stuff like this isn't all that far-fetched. Merit scholarships are often also called tuition discounts because they're used as a tactic to entice students to show up and enroll at that college. Think Black Friday, but make it college. These are often awarded to students automatically without an extra application or essay and are based on your academic profile. One easy way to find colleges that are pretty generous with those merit scholarships or discounts I mentioned? BigJ saves the day again with their spreadsheets, which have a handy column that tells you the average merit-based scholarship award per school for the typical admitted student. Use this as a baseline to estimate the potential merit-based scholarship money that you might receive using your own course load, GPA, and test scores if you choose to send them in as a barometer. If you're above the college's average stats, you'll probably, keyword probably, receive an above average merit aid award. If you're below, don't expect the red carpet to be rolled out for you. This is why forming that strategic college list and having realistic admissions chances is such a crucial step in making college affordable. Now, zeroing in on need-based aid, it's important to remember that not all forms of aid are created equal. Every college packages their need-based aid differently, just like every college has different admissions processes and priorities. So when you get financial aid awards back from colleges, here's a handy walkthrough of the types of aid that you want to prioritize. Number 1, grants. Grants are literally free money. There's no payback needed. So no matter if it's a federal grant like a Pell Grant, a state grant like the Cal Grant in California, or an institutional grant directly sourced from the college itself, this is the form of financial aid that is pretty irrefutably the best. There are actually a handful of highly selective private colleges that practice what's called a no-loan financial aid policy, meaning that their need-based aid packages are almost entirely grants and/or work-study awards. This is really the ideal scenario if you can swing it, but just know that these policies are super generous and more rare. So don't expect them to be the case at every college that's out there. Number 2, work study. This is another easy yes unless you have a pressing reason for not working. It helps you earn your own money that you can use to cover personal expenses while at school. And the average amount of what you intend to receive is going to be included on your financial aid letter, but you actually have to work the hours to receive that total amount. So that part's on you. Number 3, subsidized federal loans. Now, even the word loan causes some people to cringe harder than the way that I cringe at those ASMR TikTok baking videos. Oh my God, the crunch. But here's the thing. Your college education is an investment that's worth its weight in gold in terms of future earning potential and salary benefits. So sometimes that requires taking on healthy, manageable debt. Keywords, healthy and manageable, to get her done. Loans that are marked as subsidized are arguably the best that you'll encounter in a financial aid package. This is because the interest rate is relatively low compared to private options, and it doesn't accrue while you're actually in school. Number 4, unsubsidized loans. Federal unsubsidized loans are another solid option towards affording college. They're not quite as good as subsidized loans because the interest starts piling up immediately after they send it out to you, but it's still a regulated, relatively low interest rate loan in the overall market. Side note, even students who weren't deemed eligible for need-based aid can still request an unsubsidized loan from the college that they enroll at. So this is a great option if you need just a little more support beyond what your outside scholarships and your own funding sources can provide. And lastly, number 5, which you want to proceed with a little more caution, are Parent Plus loans and/or outside financing and loan options. So unlike federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans, which would be in your own name as a student and it would be your responsibility to pay it back after you graduate, Parent Plus loans are in your parent or guardian's name, and they have higher interest rates and generally less protections in general than subsidized and unsubsidized federal loans. They're also not typically included in your initial financial aid award from a college. Rather, they're listed as an option to help finance your education if you don't find the aid package to be enough. Sometimes this is called gapping, where the college is like, hey, we know you need X, but we can only give you Y, and here are Z options. Get it? Z options. To hashtag mind the gap. Ideally, you pick and are accepted to colleges that will meet closer to your demonstrated percent of need to avoid these types of situations. Now, how do you do that? Here's a step-by-step approach. Step number 1, find out your ballpark figure. So before hauling out the filing cabinet, which you probably have never seen or maybe never heard of, and filling out forms that may make your head spin, there are 2 useful tools that you can use to get a sense of your financial aid eligibility before you even apply to college. This can be done during your junior year or even earlier, keeping in mind though that calculations change based on changes to your family's income and assets. The first tool to tap into is called the Federal Student Aid Estimator. This can provide an estimate of your eligibility for a federal Pell Grant and those federal student loans that I just mentioned. By inputting information such as your income, your family size, and other relevant details, the tool calculates your student aid index, that SAI. Another useful tool is called MyIntuition, which is currently used at about 70 different colleges and counting. And for most students and families, it usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes to actually complete. So it's not this scary day-long project that you may be thinking it might be. Take a scan through the MyIntuition website and see if any of the colleges on here are ones that are on your radar and that you were thinking might be neat to apply to. Most of the schools that are part of MyIntuition also tend to meet a high percentage of demonstrated need. So they tend to be good financial matches for students who are low income and have a low SAI. Because again, remember, your SAI, or Student Aid Index, is the amount that a college thinks your family can afford to pay based on your assets and income. All right, step number 2, get a little more granular with school-specific net price calculators. These calculators, which are required at any college that receives federal funding for aid, give you a personalized estimate of what that college might actually cost for you based on your family income, assets, and situation. So how accurate are they, you ask? Pretty dang accurate, if you fill them out correctly. Now, if you fill it out and you're like, how is this possibly the amount that a college thinks I can pay? It's possible that you made an error along the way. This might be the time to reach out to a financial aid staff member at the college whose net price calculator you're filling out. Ideally, they'll be able to help you get to the bottom of your situation and share their expertise so that you better understand why the math came out the way it did. Step number 3, identify your level of financial need. If your student aid index is low, that means you qualify for a lot of need-based aid. You're going to want to focus on applying to colleges that meet at least 90%, ideally closer to 100% of demonstrated financial need. Even if a school's average is around 90%, you still might get more depending on your unique situation. So it's a gamble worth taking. Now, if you have a college list that's entirely made up of colleges that meet less than 90% of demonstrated need, be prepared to receive financial aid awards that won't cover what you truly need to afford it all. The choice is yours, young Padawan. Step number 4, include at least one in-state public or flagship school on your list. Now, even if you're aiming to apply to mostly private colleges, it's a good idea to have an affordable in-state option on your list. These schools offer lower tuition and fees and might be your most affordable backup. Side note, there are also some in-state tuition exchange programs such as WUI, which is the Western Undergraduate Exchange, where you'll be charged in-state tuition and fees at a range of public colleges from several Western states. So you could be going to college in Colorado, for example, for the same cost as your in-state option in California. This is especially attractive to students who don't qualify for a ton of need-based aid, but who can't just write that blank check for the full markup. And that's a great segue to step number 5, prioritize merit aid if you don't qualify for need-based aid. Thankfully, there are a lot of colleges out there with generous merit-based scholarship and aid programs. Now, something to keep in mind is that most of these schools are not going to be the top 20 or so colleges that many families have heard of from different rankings. These elite schools usually prioritize all of their financial aid budgets for need-based financial aid. So don't make the mistake, which many of my students have done in the past, of piling on a ton of these elite colleges on your list if you are what we call middle income, meaning that the sticker price is too much, but you don't qualify for need-based aid, and expecting some magic non-advertised scholarship to show up. If a college says they don't offer merit aid and you don't qualify for need-based aid, but can't pay the sticker price, it's a real disservice to you as a student to pursue those options, when the reality is they're just not a financial match for your situation, even if you have a competitive academic record to send in an application. And your final step, include at least one financial safety school. A financial safety school is one that you'll be confident you'll be accepted and you'll be able to afford, even if you get no aid at all. Think public in-state options or a school where your staffs make you a top applicant and are likely to receive a really generous merit aid. With this approach, you'll be balancing aspiration and affordability and setting yourself up for some real choices come decision time. So how do you actually apply for aid at most colleges? As I'm sure you've gathered, step number 1 for pretty much every US-based student is going to be filling out that FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. This form is your golden ticket to need-based aid from the federal government, which is the funding source that most colleges rely on to support their financial aid programs, though there is a small list of schools that rely on solely their own private endowed funds to supply their aid. And here's the plot twist. Some colleges are so FAFSA obsessed that they actually require you to send it in even if you're only applying for merit-based aid. Why? because it gives them a more complete picture of your financial situation, and colleges want to be 100% sure that you're not eligible for federal aid before they tap into their own reserves. You may have also heard from the news or from recent articles that there have been some major shakeups to the FAFSA in recent years. And trying to keep up with them is like opening up the group chat after a digital detox. Combustion. So normally, the FAFSA drops on October 1st every year. To do it, you'll need your prior tax year returns, translation, tax forms from 2 years ago. So if you're filling out the 2026 to 2027 school year FAFSA, you'll need 2024 tax returns. The bottom line, everyone and their grandma who's eligible should still fill out the FAFSA. Seriously. The FAFSA is what's going to give you that student aid index that I mentioned before, the magic number that colleges use to figure out how much aid to give you. Now, something to keep in mind is that every college typically has their own financial aid deadline that is often a little bit later than their admissions deadline, but not always. And at some colleges, applying earlier for financial aid gives you the possibility to receive more aid than you would if you applied right towards the deadline. Because at some colleges, their financial aid budget is really fixed, so once the money's gone, it's gone. That's why applying as early as you can and filling out that information right when it opens up is the best thing you can do to get more cash. Now, some colleges may also ask you to complete what's called a CSS profile. Think of it as the FAFSA's more sophisticated cousin that went to finishing school. About 400 colleges require this form in addition to the FAFSA. So step 1, check if the colleges on your list are in the CSS club. While the FAFSA is all about federal aid, the CSS profile is how colleges decide how much institutional aid, their own money, to give you. And here's where they differ. The CSS profile uses what's called institutional methodology, which means that an individual college will dig deeper into your family's assets and have their own definitions of what's on the table for you and your family to afford college. An example of how a CSS profile might vary from school to school is something like home equity. At some colleges, your family's home and the value of it is seen as an asset that they can tap into, while at other colleges, your home remains untouched. Much like the FAFSA, the CSS profile usually opens up on October 1st, so mark your calendars. And when you're tackling the CSS profile, you want to be thorough and accurate. No fudging the numbers, people. And double, maybe even triple check those deadlines, because again, they vary from college to college. One more attractive element of the CSS profile is that if you have unique family circumstances that affect your ability to pay for college, so think a job loss or medical expenses, you could explain those in the application in a little more detail than you would be able to do in the FAFSA. It's your chance to tell the complete financial story. But Tom, what about outside scholarships, ones that are not awarded by individual colleges? I'm glad you asked. Let's go over the 3 biggest buckets of outside scholarships that are out there: national scholarships, local, regional, and state scholarships, and institutional scholarships. National scholarships are the big leagues. They're offered large, well-funded organizations like COLA or the Elks Foundation, and there are tons and tons and tons of these scholarships out there, which is awesome, but here's the catch. The competition is fierce. You're up against students from all over the country. To find these national gems, you'll want to create accounts on scholarship websites like FastWeb, Niche, Scholarships.com, or CapEx. Think of this as created in your scholarship hunting profile. While the potential payouts for national scholarships can be huge, the odds of winning are really low. We're talking lottery ticket low. Only about 0.1% of students win scholarships over $25,000. So don't put all your eggs in this basket. All right, for local, regional, and state scholarships, these are a little more down to earth. They're offered by organizations in your community or state, so the competition is a little slimmer. Think local talent show versus American Idol. A fantastic place to start in your search is your state's financial aid administrator. You can find a list of these folks on the NASFAA website. They're like state-level scholarship gurus. Your state's financial aid resources can also point you toward tuition exchange programs like I mentioned before, WUI, state scholarships and grants, and scholarships from your city or country. And, of course, don't forget your trusty school-based counselor. They're often in the know about regional scholarships that may not even be listed on a college's website. They're local scholarship Sherpas. So zooming out, here's the reality about those outside scholarships. About 1 in 8 students receives one. So it's definitely worth pursuing them, but don't bank on them entirely. And the average amount is about $4,200 per year, which is helpful, but isn't necessarily going to cover everything. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that there isn't as much of a scholarship deadline or season, unlike need-based financial aid, where you need to fill out those forms I mentioned by key deadlines. So even the summer before you enroll in college, you can still be applying away to scholarships on your own time. Perhaps even creatively recycling some of your college essays. All that hard work keeps working for you. All right, so say you get your aid package back from your college and you're like, that's it? Well, ideally, you identify best fit financial schools early on in your search to avoid this, but just know that this is a relatively common experience for many students. And just like swap meets and flea markets, every time I say that I feel all scratchy, you can sometimes bargain with your booth vendor, in this case, the college, especially if they practice scholarship matching policies or things of that nature. Here's how you'd want to go around appealing your financial aid package. Call or email the financial aid office to ask about their appeal process. Write a clear, polite letter explaining any changes in your situation, such as a job loss, medical bills, etc. Provide the documentation they might request, which justifies why you should receive more money than what was awarded. And lastly, be specific. Ask for more grants or work study, not just more money. Now, there's no guarantee that the financial aid office will budge, but it's important to leave no stone unturned when it comes to aid. They won't rescind your admission decision, so you truly have nothing to lose by asking. Now, going in and demanding for more, that's just not a smart idea in general. Unless you're demanding that Charlie XCX release Brat 2 Die Bratia. Now, as we wrap up, I want to shower you with some knowledge droplets. These are the key takeaways that will help you navigate the financial aid landscape like a pro. Don't procrastinate. Start thinking about financial aid and affordability early on in the college process. It's not something that you want to leave to the last minute. Include financial likely schools on your list. If cost is a major concern, make sure you have some schools where you're confident that you can afford. Selective doesn't always mean generous. As I mentioned before, many of the selective colleges don't offer merit aid, so be prepared for that. But selective can mean prestigious scholarships. Some of those fancy colleges have amazing scholarship opportunities, such as the full tuition Robertson at Duke or the Moorhead Kane at UNC Chapel Hill. So don't write out these schools entirely. Student loans have limits. You can only borrow so much from the federal government every year, so factor that into your planning process. And be careful with those riskier Parent Plus loans and outside loan options that I mentioned. Low-income students, aim for schools that meet 100% of need. Net price calculators are your friends. Use them to get personalized cost estimates from the colleges that you're interested in. FAFSA and CSS Profile equals ASAP. Fill out those forms as early as you can to maximize your aid eligibility. And here's your final word of advice. Remember that you don't have to pay the sticker price for pretty much anything in this world, including college. Nearly 9 out of 10 students receive some form of aid. And if you apply strategically and prioritize affordability alongside all the other amazing things that you're looking for in a college experience, like exciting classes, a dynamic community, a campus to call home, you'll breathe easier for 4 years and beyond. You've got this. And we're here rooting for you. All right, if you have more specific questions about affording college that weren't covered in this video, check out the link below to our Paying for College guide, designed by the wonderful Amanda Miller, to get way more into all the practical how-to steps. Now, weren't included in this video to keep the runtime low-ish. As always, College Essay Guy is here to help with all of your college planning related needs. So be sure to like, subscribe, and drop some questions in the comments if you need more support. Now go get that bread.